Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades and this is a review for the ES and NQ futures for November 11th. We're going to start off here on the ES and then hop over to the NQ after. So this is the overnight high, this is the overnight low, these are our key levels for the day. I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is this area right here. And so starting off, we have this uptrend, which pushes into an overshoot. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks, so it's not surprising that we have this sharp move down right here. It's actually very common for after overshoots, it's common to see reversal patterns immediately, oftentimes within the trend that's moving up. But this one quickly led to a break. So when it pushes lower here, this is a good spot for a failed second entry, a reversal pattern. If we push lower and get a couple legs back, we can form a good failed second entry. And if it sets up properly, which I'm going to draw out here really quick, just an example, if we got a break and two clear legs up like that, that would be confluent with this uptrend right here, because the uptrend would have a break and a first attempt higher, second attempt higher, which means you'd be able to look to get short on the failure entry right here. Now, we end up not quite getting that. As you can see, we push out, we break this uptrend, we get first attempt at a new high, and then it immediately pushes and makes a new swing low. So it's really kind of a two-legged break from here. It's just, obviously the legs are very different size, but really it's a two-legged break. And so then we start our new first attempt higher from there. Again, it's a two-legged break just because of because the price broke the previous swing low. So it's no longer first attempt higher, second attempt higher. New count reset, so we have our first attempt up here, and that quickly fails and just pushes lower, and we go into a downtrend. So when price pushes lower here, it's pretty clear that price is not wanting to make a new high at this point. If we push lower and get a couple legs back, retesting these the range lows, then we can look to get short off of that. Obviously, as you can see, that doesn't happen though, but this is what I'd like to see here. So anyway, we push on lower here, and then we start to go into this range. We start going sideways. And again, another opportunity could be if price pushes out and retests this level right here, even if it's not necessarily a clear second entry, we could look to get in on so it would be one, a retest, but it would also be a fade of this range right here. So we could get something like that. In this case, price ends up just pushing on lower. So we push on lower, we nearly reach the overnight low. It bounces as if it reached it. It's attempting to reverse. Even though it didn't reach it, if price pushes into a failed second entry, we can look to take it because this is a common reversal area. It's not always going to have a perfect test of the overnight levels. You can basically view these as range levels. You're not always going to have a perfect test of the range highs and range lows when going back and forth. So if you get a clear reversal pattern here, one that's big enough to play out this downtrend with two legs down, then you can absolutely look to go long. So anyway, price does find resistance at this trend line, a couple bounces right there, before finally getting a full bounce off of the overnight low, and then that gives us a real push higher here. So we get a very strong push higher, spikes up, break. So now we have, at this point here, we have two things going on. We have a conflict right here. The uptrend has a break, so we can expect price to attempt a new high. However, with this downtrend, that uptrend is the break from the downtrend. So we have downtrend, break, first attempt lower, and we can still expect price to attempt a second leg lower to make a new low. And as price pushes up here, this uptrend, break, first attempt at a new high, one thing that we could get is after the second leg up here, looking to excuse me, I'm getting my tongue tied up here. As price is pushing up to a new high, which is also forming the second leg higher, if we find good resistance, then we can look to get short and make that second leg lower. And so what happens is on that second leg up, it ends up making a double top. So it's borderline whether it made a new high, because trends play out by getting a break and making a new extreme. And so when it makes this double top right here, it could react as if it's played out. It could react as if it still needs another leg higher. It's just borderline because it didn't make a new high. It only made a double top. So you just have to stick with whatever price ends up doing. And so here we push below the EMA. It does close right back above, but then we get a nice push back below, closing below. This is a good looking lower high to me because with this downtrend, we are entering on the second leg at a new low. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and we're getting in on that second leg down with the lower high. And it's acting as if this uptrend is played out because it's shooting back below the EMA, and it was very borderline anyway. And so I like the bearish reaction that we get right here. So we push on lower here. We reach the lows of this range. This is a limit order, as you can see, just because I didn't want to push the target through this low right here because these highs fit so well. It just seemed like it would fit off the lows too because it just looked like it was going into a range. The lows weren't confirmed at this point because it only had one swing, but it seemed appropriate to keep my target within it because it was definitely going into a range. And so we push on lower here. We reach this measured move, which let me get that out of the way. So we have these two legs down here. We meet the measured move. Price attempts to push on up. It doesn't give us a good failed second entry. One thing that could have happened is make a failed second entry. We would just want room to this trend line right here. But that doesn't even end up happening, so we continue on lower. And I ended up drawing this here because so since it made a double top right here, it did react like a two-legged move down. However, oftentimes with double tops, it could count as a count reset. And so when price starts pushing lower here after those couple legs higher, it's pretty clear that this is a two-legged move as well, stemming from right here. Even though right here is the start of this second leg down from right here, it is a double top. It could easily count as a count reset, and so you just have to wait and see how the second leg reacts. And it definitely was a two-legged move stemming from here as well. And so we have this first leg down, couple legs back. We start making that second leg down, and then we, as we push out here, if we get a couple legs back retesting the lows of this range, then we can, again, like I was mentioning earlier, from over here, we can look to get short on the retest. We just need to make sure that there's room to the overnight low before entering. And so anyway, we push on lower here, we break out of the lows. When we break out the overnight low, we want to see 2 attempts to fade before shorting the breakout. In this case here, we only get 1 attempt. It didn't break out far enough to give 2 good attempts anyway. And so there's just nothing here to take. We push on lower here. We overshoot this trend. Now, so we're in the downtrend. Overshoots, like I was explaining at the beginning here, overshoots tend to lead to breaks. This is not a very significant overshoot right here, given the size of the trend and the size of the break, or the size of the overshoot, I mean. But it's also at this measured move right here. So this is a good place. If price has a good reaction and gets above the EMA, we would want to look for a long. We would want to look for a failed second entry. Even though we're in a downtrend, we still can go long. It's still a two-legged move down. It's close to the overnight low. We can, there's still high potential to fade. So if we get a push above the EMA, we can still get a long, ideally a failed second entry. But price ends up just chopping around, pushes lower, and now we're getting a push on higher, a clear push on higher. And so, we could still get that failed second entry. We're going into this channel right here. Let me just draw that up. And then let me get a arrow here. So, there's still potential for a long here. Hopefully I finish this video quick so I can trade a little bit longer. There we go. So failed second entry. I'm going to hop over to the NQ just so that way I can kind of truck through this video. Anyway, this is the overnight high. This is the overnight low, our key levels for the day. Just like I was explaining on the other chart, for both markets, we mark the overnight high and low. So this is 8 a.m. right here. This is when I started trading. We have these 2 legs up. It's going into this channel here, but that quickly breaks. So as we're pushing lower here, we're pushing off the overnight high. Clearly it's a 2-legged move higher. And one thing I want to go over really quick in case there's anyone more new, I do see how there's 3 legs right here. Yes. And at first what you have is a 2-legged move up here, and then notice that you have a perfect measured move reaction right there. However, price failed to reverse. It made 2 attempts to reverse. So uptrend, break, new high, reversal at the measured move, 2 attempts to reverse. Very typical. This is how second entries form. And it ends up not reversing very far. It continues on higher, which means that even no matter how separated these legs look, you have to combine them. And so what you have here is a bigger 2-legged move. And then let me draw off this measured move level for you. This measured move level was nearly met. It was within a tick of being met. All right, I can't get that quite straight, but you see, it was within a tick of being met. So even though these 2 legs up right there are so separated, and if you're not used to this, it could feel like there's no way that could be 1 leg on a bigger picture. This is 1 leg on a bigger picture. Starts from right here, ends right there. the failed reversal is the break, and then this is the second leg higher. So two-legged move up, push down at the overnight high. Good place for a reversal pattern. There's a chance that we could even get one inside of this trend right here if there's room, but that doesn't end up happening. So we continue on down here, and then you can kind of see price makes these two legs up right here. So we are in this downtrend, which that's not a clean fitting channel, but it's clearly the spike down. And so we have this downtrend, price breaks, first attempt lower, second attempt lower. On the other side of the count, that's a second entry short. We don't get a good bar. By the time we get a good bar, you're entering right into the lows, which you don't want to do. But when this channel breaks, you can look to get in on a new low. However, you have to consider this channel at the same time. So ideally, we would have gotten a bigger second leg. Let me just copy that over. Because if we got a second leg up right here and met the measured move, then this uptrend would have two clear attempts at a new high. It would be a failed second entry on the other side of the count, because it would be first entry long, second entry long, failure. But it just doesn't quite set up good enough, and you're entering right into those lows, so I don't want to enter on that. Anyway, we continue on lower here. We break out of the overnight low, a good place to get a fade entry. If price pushes back in, then you can look to get long and continue the fade, ideally with two legs down, retesting the top of the overnight low. However, in this case here, we don't get that. It attempts to fade up, but very quickly it shoots back down. And so what I'd like to see here as we continue breaking out is two attempts to fade the overnight, and so we can get in on a fade failure. So when price breaks the overnight levels, the range levels, you want to wait for two attempts to fade. Price attempts things in pairs of twos, whether it's fading, whether it's reaching a magnet like a measured move level or a trend line, or playing out a trend. The market moves in pairs of twos for everything. And so when you break out right here and you get two attempts to fade, it's already made its two attempts, so you can expect price to fail, and so then you can look to get in on the failure. So that's why I want to see two attempts to fade before shorting the breakout. We only get one attempt right here, unfortunately. Would have been nice to see a little break and another leg up, but we just continue on down. So we continue down. It's kind of choppy on the way down. You're not really getting any clear entries. It's just chop in first entries, so nothing there. And then we get a break. So now we have downtrend, break, and we can expect price to attempt a new low. Now, it's one price action level at a time, and what we get here is two attempts to make a new low for the downtrend break. So downtrend as a break, we can expect it to play out with a new low, and we get those two attempts at a new low. Now, similarly to what I was just explaining with the two attempts to fade and failing, these are the two attempts at a new low, and since we have the two attempts and it hasn't made the new low, we can look to get in on a failure. And so when price starts pushing up here, it was clearly forming some support right there. This was a no-fill. By the way, I did not try to enter up there. I just wanted to see what it looked like. It was actually, I forget exactly where I was trying to enter. It was a few ticks lower than the stop entry. But when price pushed up here, I at this point didn't even want to get in with a limit order. So I had already canceled the limit order by the time it's coming back here, because when price reached right here and pushed lower, these range highs, they're not confirmed. However, it is borderline testing the range highs. If the range highs are valid, it borderline tested them, and if it tests them, then you have to consider the range rules, which are that you can expect price to reach the lows. And so I did not want to enter long with the range rules in play to the downside. And again, the range highs are not confirmed here, but the reason I was still concerned is because this is a very big downtrend, and this is a small picture setup compared to the size of that downtrend. Now, these legs down are relative in size. You can clearly tell it's two attempts at a new low, but it is a small, long entry after a breakout of the lows, right after a very bearish downtrend, which on a bigger picture can still attempt a new low. So I wasn't wanting to combine that with the idea that possibly the highs of this little range right here were met, and then now we have the range rules in play to the downside. So I hope that's clear right there. That's why I didn't allow my order to get filled there. It does end up pushing on higher, as you can see, but sometimes that just happens in trading. You got to watch it take off without you. So anyway, we push on up here. We reach this measured move, 2 legs up. So on a bigger picture, what we have here is a 2-legged break. So at first, we just got a small break and 2 attempts at a new low, but the failed new low pushed us into this second leg up, which is just a bigger picture two-legged break. So downtrend, 2-legged break. This is all part of the break up to here. Price ends up pushing through that measured move. If we push lower and retest this measured move level, then we can look to take a short off of it, because these do act as support and resistance levels. It's very common for price to initially not react to them, but then react later. So if price pushes through a measured move level and then essentially fades back into it and then retests it on the lower side, you can look to get short. I was wanting to see a failed second entry. There was this trend line in play, and it came off that trend line too. But if you get 2 attempts that are measured, then you have your 2 attempts off the trend line, making it valid to go short with the overall trend that's forming. And so anyway, and that was also after an overshoot. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks. So anyway, it ends up not happening. We push on up here. It starts to go a little bit choppy. We're working up in this uptrend still, but we also have, as we start to form this resistance right here, let me just grab this. At first, we can draw this downtrend line off of that swing, but then as it reaches there, has a slight pierce out, starts to get choppy. We can look to extend it to there because it's not that far of a breakout. And then the same thing right here. So price does form from this high. We have a failed second entry, first entry long, second entry long, and then the failure right here. However, it's way too choppy. It's into the trend line. It's not clear, so it's not worth entering on for me. And so I skip this here. We push on lower though. It does find resistance right at that previous swing. It starts to go choppy sideways, and we're kind of just riding along this trend line right here. And so we continue on lower here. We have this down measured move in play, which price, kind of like what I was explaining, what I would have wanted to see here. Price pushes through the measured move level and then retests it on the low side. It doesn't give a clear 2-legged move, but it's still giving that retest there. So anyway, we push on lower here. We overshoot this downtrend. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks, although this one continues to overshoot and overshoot, keeps going down. We get this trend here, break, new low, another leg to a new low, and then after this little downtrend plays out, we get a sharp reversal higher. So I guess that's going to be it for the review. We just broke this channel right here, so the price is likely to attempt a new low, downtrend, break, first attempt lower, what it's forming right now. If price pushes below the EMA and gives 2 legs back and then holds below, then we can look to get short on the second leg to a new low. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, hope it helped out, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.